This is chapter 2 of Savvy. Later that night, as I lay awake in the dark bedroom I shared with Gypsy, I listened to my sister's even breathing and to the steady patter of Fish's worried rain. I could hear Mama and Rocket moving around downstairs, sweeping up glass and replacing light bulbs. And though Grandpa had gone to bed as well, every now and then the ground would rumble and the floor would shake, as though the earth below us had a bellyache. Mama and Rocket were leaving for Salina early in the morning and planning to stay in a motel near the hospital. I had begged to go see Papa and stay in a motel and get some of those little soaps all wrapped up in paper. But the rest of us had to stay at home with Grandpa. Rocket got to go because his electric touch was the only thing that could make the old station wagon run. Nobody had said anything about my birthday. Nobody had said much about much. I lay awake most of the night, unable to sleep, until Mama tiptoed in with the dawn to whisper a soft goodbye, kissing my cheek lightly with her perfect pink lips. Still upset that I wasn't allowed to go with her and Rocket to Salina, I pretended to be asleep, and soon after, I heard the car door slam and the engine rumble to life at Rocket's spark as he and Mama drove away. That Friday before my birthday, Fish was in charge of looking after Gypsy and Grandpa Boomba. It was my job to get Samson up and ready for school and to make sure we both made it up the 3 steep steps of the big orange bus that took Samson and me the 15 miles to school in Hebron, Nebraska. I had to poke and prod Brody Samson up the long, soggy, boggy road toward our mailbox, which had fallen over in the night after getting pushed 10 feet further to the west from all of Grandpa's worried rumbling. Samson didn't say much, waiting for the bus, but Samson never did. "It's Missy Pissy and her storm cloud," Ashley Bing said every day when Samson and I climbed onto the bus, and every day Emma Flint repeated "Missy Pissy" with a snorting laugh, like it was a new and funny joke each time. The kids at school had learned on my very first day that my real name was Mississippi, which had been unfortunate. We Beaumonts got enough whispers and giggles as it was. The rumors were fierce, and I'd heard them all. "Look, it's the weird kids. My mom said they had to move here because one of them got into some huge kind of trouble. I heard the oldest brother got hit by lightning, and now he's dangerous and hardly ever leaves the house. That family ought to live in an ark. It's almost always storming at their place, and one of these days they're just going to wash away for good." I knew that after I blew out my own 13 dripping candles, I'd be a adios and aloha to Hebron Middle School, as well as to Ashley Bing and Emma Flint and everyone else like them. After my birthday, my poor moody Samson would be a lonesome shadow in the back of the big orange bus while I grew moss and pickle jars with Fish and Rocket back at home. It was hard for us Beaumont kids to make friends and to keep them. It wasn't safe to invite anyone over with Fish and Rocket still learning to scumble their savvies. We couldn't risk someone finding out or getting hurt by sparks or storms if my brothers lost control. Like so many things, a savvy could take years to tame, and Mama and Papa said the ups and downs of growing up only added to the challenge. My last day at Hebron Middle School was a slow, creeping crawl of a day. It was hard to concentrate on X plus Y equals Z when my thoughts were all tied up at Salina Hope Hospital. It was harder still to spell accommodate and adolescence and armadillo when I thought of Papa waiting for Mama to come and give him a fairy tale kiss that would wake him up. And I couldn't imagine how often in my life it might be so very important to spell armadillo. But of all things, it was hardest to listen to Ashley Bing and Emma Flint whisper and stare when the teacher said, "I'd like everyone to join me in wishing Mibbs Beaumont a fond farewell. Today is her last day with us here at Hebron Middle School. Mibbs will be homeschooled beginning next week." Everyone turned in their seats to look at me. Nobody smiled or wished me a fond sort of anything. Most of the kids just shrugged and turned right back around. "Missy Pissy's going to stay home with her mommy?" Ashley said as though she were talking to a baby. Just quiet enough that the teacher couldn't hear. "With her mommy," Emma repeated. "She's going to stay home so that no one can see what a friendless freak she is," Ashley sneered. "What a freak she is," mimicked Emma like a spiteful parrot. It was a good thing for Ashley and Emma that Mama kept us kids home once we had our savvy. By the end of the day, I was hoping that mine might give me the muscle to turn nasty girls into slimy green frogs or to glue their mouths shut tight with a nod of my head. When Samson and I got back home that afternoon, a shiny gold minivan was parked in front of our house, and Fish was angrily blasting it clean with the garden hose. With its smiling angel air freshener dangling in the front window, I recognized the van immediately. It belonged to Miss Rosemary, the preacher's wife. Mama made the whole family go to church in Hebron every Sunday, despite any fears of savvy catastrophes. And Miss Rosemary was well known to us all. She smelled like Lysol and butterscotch and had her own matching set of rights and wrongs, like suitcases she made other people carry, and she took it upon herself to make everything and everyone in ship shape and apple pie as she felt the Lord had intended them to be. Somehow the news had already reached the preacher's wife about Papa's accident and about the rest of us being on our own without a mama. Miss Rosemary had come to set things right. Water spun from the house and Fish's hands swirling around the van like a cyclone in the winds churned up by his bad mood. The trees next to the house, bright yellow, green with leafy spring, bent and swayed. Fish lowered the hose when he saw us coming, his face stormy black. If you'd known what's good for you, you'd sneak in the back. He nodded his head toward the house. We all stood and looked sadly at our own lovely house, as though we'd just found out that a grizzly bear had moved in and pulled all the stuffing from the furniture and torn all the pictures from the walls and eaten all the special occasion mini marshmallows from the high top shelf above the refrigerator while we were gone. Then, like a break in bad weather, Fish smiled, his cockeyed smile, and sprayed his hose my way teasingly. Last day away to school, Mibs? Last day, I said, dodging the water from the hose, leaving Fish to finish his chore. Samson and I quietly let ourselves in through the back door, hoping to make it up the stairs before Miss Rosemary knew where we were. Your grandfather looked tired, so I had him lie down in his room for a rest, Miss Rosemary said the moment we entered the kitchen. She was perched up high with a spray bottle cocked in one rubber-gloved hand and a rag held ready in the other. She was taking the jars from the tops of the covers and cleaning their dust with a wrinkle in her nose, squinting at the faded labels. I held my breath as I watched her, hoping that she hadn't opened any of them. No one who wasn't family should have been touching those jars. No one. Gypsy is also down for a nap, Miss Rosemary continued, so I expect you two to be quiet and not wake her. Yes, Miss Rosemary, Samson and I both said, but Samson mostly moved his lips. Your mother should have called me the moment she found out about your poor father, Miss Rosemary said, dusting the last jar with a flourish. Satisfied with her work, she clasped both the spray bottle and the rag to her chest and closed her eyes as though she was praying for the strength to clean up the whole wide world. When she reopened her eyes, she gave us a stern and solemn look. I ought to have been here sooner, she sighed. Children need a mother in the house.